Everybody, welcome to What's Up Wednesday. I read a toolbox talk last week that kind of got me thinking, and this is a topic I've thought a lot about over the years, which is chainsaw safety. And I think this makes a really fun What's Up Wednesday because when we think about chainsaw safety, chainsaws are truly terrifying pieces of equipment, and that's why they're often used in horror movies. But anyways, got me thinking a little bit about this topic. And as a result, I wanted to kind of share a personal story from years ago. So probably, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, I was with a group of people and we were taking a trip up into British Columbia, coastal British Columbia for scuba diving trip. And we were staying in this little town called Egmont, British Columbia, which was up on the coast and having the most amazing time scuba diving. On the very last day, the lodge operator, who was also servicing a logging camp across the bay, asked us if we would be willing to take an injured logger back to the ferry. And when we got across the Horseshoe Bay ferry to North Vancouver, there would be an ambulance there to pick him up. And of course, we agreed to. And this young, scrappy fella, really good spirits, he had buried his chainsaw in his calf. And they determined it was non-life threatening. So they bandaged him up real well, sent him with us. Needless to say, by the time that we got to the ferry and we transferred him, it had been about 3 hours. He was looking pretty pale. You could tell he was in a lot of pain. And I don't know whatever happened to that person, but I've thought about that often ever since. And when we think about chainsaw safety, we do have chainsaws on our job sites from time to time. I've seen them many times over the years. And I know that when I worked in safety distribution, I sold a lot of chainsaw chaps and visors and helmets and whatnot. Uh, but I'm constantly amazed when I see people using chainsaws, how they don't understand the risk. And I've got some statistics here that kind of amazed me, and that is roughly 36,000 people are treated every single year in emergency rooms for chainsaw related injuries. That's a staggering number. I never would have expected it was that high. The average injury results in 110 stitches, and we spend about $350 million a year treating chainsaw specific injuries. And as we probably know, most injuries come from kickback, and kickback occurs when the chain gets caught and all that power is transferred into the bar and it pops back up. And when I say pops up, it could pop in any number of directions because of the weight and the balance of the chainsaw. It's very easy when it kicks up that it drops and we end up hitting ourselves. When I see people using chainsaws, I guess first off, if people see me using my chainsaw in my yard when I have big limbs fall off one of my trees in a windstorm or something, they're going to see me in heavy work boots, Kevlar chainsaw chaps from my waist all the way down to my ankles, covering the tops of my feet. I'm going to have heavy work gloves. I'm going to have safety glasses, and I just happen to have an orange helmet with built-in earmuffs and a mesh visor face shield on the front of it. That is proper PPE to be using a chainsaw. What amazes me is, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, is you see somebody using a chainsaw, they might have safety glasses on, they might have hearing protection, they might have gloves, but rarely do we see more than that. Even on the job site, I often see them grab a chainsaw, cut through a timber, and they don't put chaps on for one reason or another. And the whole purpose of a chap is that when that bar bounces or kicks back and comes into contact with the leg, any part of the leg, the chainsaw chap is made up of fibers that will actually get tangled up in the chain and stop the motor. That's the whole purpose, so it doesn't continue to cut. And really, when we think about this, as I mentioned, the proper PPE setup includes hearing protection, eye protection, face protection, hand protection, then body protection from the waist down at a minimum. And more often than not, we just don't see that being employed. So think a little bit about that. If you have chainsaws out in the workplace, on your job sites, make sure you have a chainsaw safety plan or you address PPE and chainsaw use in your PPE program or somewhere in your written programs. Make sure it's addressed and make sure you train on it because people don't understand the risks, which is why 36,000 people end up in the emergency room. They just, they either don't understand the risk, they don't take it seriously, or more likely, they don't think it's going to happen to them. But I could tell you that when you cut yourself with a box cutter, or, there are a lot of different types of injuries you could sustain using a tool. Few are as gruesome as a chainsaw chain cutting into somebody's leg. It not only lacerates, it tears the tissue apart. It mangles when it goes in, and it is a horrible injury. So, these are very preventable with the right PPE. We just need to make sure people are educated. We have policies, and then we enforce those policies. So hopefully you find that helpful. We'll have another topic next Wednesday.